Well, Joe Hinrichs, President and CEO of CSX, like to be the first to congratulate you to being named our 2025 Railroader of the Year. You are the first from CSX since Michael Ward back in 2009, and I think prior to that was Hayes Watkins back in the early days of CSX. So congratulations. Needless to say, well deserved.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Well, it's nice to be recognized along with names like Michael and Hayes Watkins, who are famous CEOs of CSX. But, really, Bill, it's about our 23,000 railroaders. I'm here to represent them. It's kind of like a coach, who gets to watch the players win on the field, and sometimes the coach gets some accolades. But this is really about CSX and what we're doing to try and change the perception of railroads and our company stands for with all 23,000 of our railroaders.
Well, why don't we talk about that first, Joe? CSX, as you know, if you go back in history, back to 1827, all right, and in 2 years we have the 200th anniversary of the railroad industry.
Very exciting.
Coming up. Baltimore and Ohio, and CSX is a big part of that celebration. CSX is made up of so many different railroads, all the predecessor companies. I won't even start naming them. There's too many of them. But it's always been, at least to my knowledge, to my experience, starting in 1992 with Railway Age, that it's been a difficult company to sort of form this one corporate culture because of the diversity of people and since the Conrail acquisition back in 1999, now you're covering the whole Eastern Seaboard. So, but we see real evidence of what you call one CSX, establishing that single corporate culture, and as you said, it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Our history goes back to February 28th, 1827, with the B&O, famous railroad, on the monopoly boards that we all played with when we were kids, and But you're right. So a lot of even our union contracts still will be referenced as B&O or L&N or CSRA or the southern part of the railroad. What we're trying to do is get everybody on the same page and to be on one team and to celebrate being a part of that team and to be aligned in our goals and what we're trying to accomplish, and for every employee to feel valued, appreciated, respected, included in what we do, and listened to. That's why we do so many surveys. That's why we're out in the field every week. That's why we do all the family days. All those things are about bringing a team together. Because when we have a team, I always said, the magic happens when people work together in teams to do great things. And we're trying to form this great team called One CSX to serve our customers better, improve safety, improve efficiency, bring about value for our shareholders. But it starts with the employees, because without them, we don't achieve what we want to accomplish.
And there are a number of firsts that really you started and the rest of the industry picked up, the labor agreements. Well, before that, the paid sick leave, which was something the craft people had really been wanting.
Yep.
And now with these early agreements, which we're not quite sure how that's going to play out with national bargaining, but this is something that changes are afoot.
They are. I mean, it's fascinating because when I came into this industry, most of the stakeholder groups were really disgruntled and unhappy, whether it's unions or the government officials or regulators or customers, because of everything that happened post-COVID and everything else. And yet, there was also, in many cases, a resistance to change. But if you don't change, you don't make improvements. If you don't change the outcome. So we stepped back and said, let's listen to our employees and see what's important to them. And listen to, obviously, our customers too, but we'll talk about that later. But listen to our employees and say what's important to them. And paid sick leave was a big deal. It became a cause célèbre issue during and then at the end of the negotiations last round. Our view is, if it's important to our people, if it's really important, let's go solve this, find a solution. And we worked very closely with many unions to make that happen. Same thing with the national negotiations. What I heard and what our team heard loud and clear from coming out of the last round, which took 3 years, was very contentious, went to the Congress to vote.
Extremely.
You know the story.
Yes.
They didn't want a repeat of that. They don't want 3 years of no raises. Even though they got it in arrears, that didn't make them feel appreciated and valued.
Right.
And so we went to the union presidents and said, if that's how you feel also, which is what we're hearing from our employees, then why don't we go to work? Why don't we find a solution? Why don't we work on that to show our employees we are listening to them, that we do care about them, they are valuable, they are an important part of what we're trying to do. And thankfully, the majority of our unions, 10 of our 13, have already reached agreements with us for the national contract, and majority of our employees are represented by that. There's more work to be done, to be sure. It's a change, and people are uncomfortable with change, but it's the right thing to do to give certainty to our employees about what their raises are going to be next year and beyond, and also get the animosity and all that angst out of the system so we can focus on serving our customers, improving safety, improving the efficiency of our network.
Yeah, it all works together, So coming from your background in the automotive industry, dealing with really one union, the UAW, so you move from 1 to 13 unions. Tell me about that transition, because what you're trying to accomplish is
it's very complex.
It's a pretty
and
heavy
frankly,
lift.
you have the interplay between the unions, and then you
Yes.
have the 13. In some cases, it's more than that, because the way the structure works in the railroad industry is different than the auto industry. The auto industry, you dealt with the UAW in the U.S. and Unifor in Canada, and you dealt with the president and the vice presidents, and you reached an agreement, and it kind of cascaded. The plants had their own local agreements, but they were done locally.
Yeah.
In the railroad industry, you have a lot of these situations where the general chairs, so there'd be 4 general chairs, for example, in our network for BLET or for Smart TD, they have their own veto power, and when you're not in national negotiations, and they have their own deals. So it's far more complex than anything we had in the auto industry. However, it's also, you can get to more meaningful local issues if you work together. And that's part of the goal here, is to get the higher level issues out of the way, wages, benefits, vacation, those kind of things, so we can work on the things that mean something to our employees on their work-life balance, scheduling, safety, efficiency. We can work on those things for the next 5 years because we have the other stuff out of the way. That's the objective that we have, and I think we have an aligned objective with all the unions. But it is complex, and you have to deal with the interplay, and you try to treat everybody fairly, because you don't want to be able to say, well, we did this for somebody, not for somebody else, because all employees are valuable equally. That makes it harder, but certainly it's still worth the objective we're trying to accomplish.
I guess within that context of working together and the interplay among the unions and the different crafts, and not everybody is going to get everything they want.
Sure.
But so there has to be, at some level, some sort of compromise, kind of like a marriage.
Right. Yep.
You don't. You may not always agree, but if you can sit down and communicate and say, okay.
It's called collective bargaining for a reason, because
Yes.
you're together, collectively. I've found, and I'm, for good or bad, I've had probably more labor experience than most people in this country. I've found that if you can develop relationships to the point where you listen to what the real issues are, you can find solutions if you work together hard enough to find them. And that's what we're trying to do. If it's important to our employees, it's important to us. Now, you're right, we can't do everything, and the company needs to be more efficient, the company needs to be safer, the company needs to service customers. But I don't find that there's a resistance to that when you talk to people. They understand the business has to be successful, but then to be successful. And what we've accomplished with the last round of bargaining and this round of bargaining, in 2020, 2029, our average railroad worker has a 50% compounded increase in wages for the same job. Where do you find that? That's great. They earned it, and we're happy for them.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of benefits we can get if we work together. Yeah. And so the important thing is about working together, listening to each other, not just speaking over each other, and finding solutions like we did on paid sick leave. We came together, we compromised, and people were able to make that successful. So that's the objective, is to develop those relationships to a point where we trust each other and we can listen to each other, and we truly believe that we can find a solution inside of that relationship.
Yeah, and Joe, literally at the end of the day, after you put in a solid day's work, railroading is hard work, and I spend most of my time looking at a computer screen, but I've been out in the field and I've seen numerous times, and I've seen people, women working on locomotives, putting spikes in, whatever you want, and to me, I think they, if they can go home at the end of the day safely to their families, would feel like, hey, I did something great here. My crew, my maintenance away crew, we did X number of hundreds of ties, or we put in so many miles of welded rail, or we overhauled, or we completed an overhaul of a locomotive, and we got this beast up and running. That's satisfying, I think.
It is. I mean, first of all, it's an outdoor sport.
Yeah.
And you're in all weather conditions. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week. As you know, holidays, weekends, everything. So we have to give a lot of respect to our employees who are willing to do that work. And, we need more and more of those people to come into our organizations. Railroaders are proud of what they do. Rightfully
Always have
so.
been.
And they always have been. And they help build this country. They're fundamental to the economy. They're the backbone of the economy. So railroaders are very proud of what they do. We want to make them not only proud of what they do, but how we do it and the team they're on and the company they work for. That's what we're trying to do with One CSX, to bring people together and say, take that pride of what they do and expand it to how we do it as a team, supporting each other, helping each other, listening to each other, to serve our customers better, to grow the business. If we grow the business, a lot of good things can happen for our employees, especially if we do that profitably, right? So it's all about that focus. Celebrate those workers. I tell people all the time in this company, every time I'm in a town hall, the value of our organization is created where the work gets done. We get paid for moving something from point A to point B. That's the only thing we get paid for. We're not. We don't build a product. We don't sell consulting services.
Yeah, it's very basic.
In one level, it's hard. But so the people that move those goods from point A to point B, they should be celebrated. They should be respected. They should be appreciated. That's where the value is in the company. Now, all the rest of us are here to help that be successful, to be safe, to have customers, to have capital, to have accounting, that can, finances, that we can raise money, all those things. But we never lose sight. That's why I go out in the field every week. Never lose sight of where the value of the company is. And it's those employees in the field who move the goods for our customers every day, every hour, all weather conditions.
On that note, what you've done with the heritage locomotives, very popular. The fans love it.
They do.
Okay, but it's interesting. Your approach is different. You retain on the nose of the unit the CSX logo, but then it transitions to a heritage scheme, and that's proven to be very popular.
Yeah, and we did that on purpose because we want to celebrate where we were and where we're coming from. But we want people to know that where we're going is CSX. And when they see us coming, it's CSX. But we always want to appreciate and recognize our past and who we were and how we got here. Our employees love the heritage units. Our team in Waycross that does them is so proud of them. And importantly, as you said, the rail fans like it too. But it's all about, again, getting back to let's celebrate who we are, what we do, how we got here, and where we're going. We want our engineers and conductors in that cab to know they're part of taking CSX forward into the future while we build on the legacy of the past.
Absolutely, which leads me to let's talk a little bit about your background. Now, everybody knows, me especially, I think, because of being a quote-unquote car guy or car person. You came out of the automotive industry. We're a railroad customer for a while.
Sure.
Ford. Tell me about your background. You grew up where?
I grew up I was born in Columbus, Ohio, but I grew up in Fostoria, Ohio, which is a nice little rail town in northwest Ohio, where it has the Iron Triangle, where NS and CSX kind of meet. And I remember when I was young, there was only one way out of the town. It's only a 12,000 person town. Only one way out where you didn't go over railroad tracks, because we all knew that way if you needed to get out. We talked about it. It's funny. A long time ago, a bank robber figured that out because they wanted to rob the bank and they wanted to get out of town. And actually, when I was in sixth grade, we did a newscast, and I was the anchor person. We found this on YouTube the other day, and I did a story about model trains, believe it or not.
Oh my!
Sometimes you just go back and think, wow, was this meant to be? But when I graduated as an engineer from college, I went to work for General Motors and spent 10 years in General Motors in engineering and manufacturing, and went and got my MBA. And I left GM to go be a partner in a private equity group for a couple of years. And that was a great experience, learned a lot, ran a supplier to the auto industry, but I missed the auto industry. And then I went back, then I went to Ford. And I spent 19 years at Ford, retiring as president of the company in 2020. But during that time at Ford, one of the things I did early in my career was run Material Planning Logistics Worldwide, which manages all the supply chain, logistics, transportation, schedules, et cetera. And I got to know the railroads because we spent a lot of money with the railroads. And I got to know the railroad CEOs, Jim Youngs and the David Goods and the Matt Roses and those folks. And got to understand. Actually, was asked to come and speak to the board of directors of Norfolk Southern during 2002, 2003. So talk about the auto industry and rail. So maybe it was destiny. I'm not sure, but once I retired from Ford, and during COVID, I took a couple years off, and then I was recruited, by the board for CSX. And when I was contemplating, thinking about the railroads and my relationship and knowledge of, and what transpired at Ford over the last 20 years of getting out of the rail business for almost all the parts, components, et cetera, it was all about our perception of the experience, the service, and the reliability and dependability, and ease of doing business with railroads. So when we was able to take on this opportunity, we came in saying, listen, here's what it's like to be a customer. And I told our people, honestly, I said, many of our customers do business because they have to, not because they want to.
They want to, yeah.
Our stretch objective, our goal with One CSX is to create customer advocacy for rail, and specifically for CSX. You do that by making the customers feel important, treating them with respect, and treating them with the kind of service they deserve and they pay for. And that goes back to One CSX, because you can't make that happen without the employees being engaged to want to make that happen. And that's where it's all circular. But my experience is very relevant because I had a lot of union experience too, negotiating UAW contracts, and a lot of government experience because we were heavily impacted with the government as well in the auto industry. But just being a customer and coming in was able to look at things, I think, from a different lens and say, let's look at this from the outside in. And if we want to grow, which the rail industry has been talking about for 10 plus years, we're going to have to serve our customers better and establish a better relationship with our customers.
And getting back to the automotive industry, movement of motor vehicles and parts, that is a huge piece of business for the railroads. Logistically, it's very complicated.
It is.
It's complicated with all, plants are here, suppliers are here, dealers are here. It's
a
like
shared fleet of auto
it's a shared
tracks.
fleet, yeah.
It's complicated.
The racks
and getting the empties back is just as important as delivering the finished vehicles.
Yeah.
And sometimes more important to the customers. So it is complex. We're fortunate where I think we now move more autos by rail than anybody else at CSX, which we're proud of. And I think it's because of our service that we're providing to those auto companies.
And ride quality, that's probably I would say that you probably would agree that a finished automobile is probably, even though it's a big heavy vehicle, it's probably one of the most fragile things you can move. The specialized cars, the specialized equipment, the draft gears, the cushioning devices, the suspension. It's the rail cars.
And damage in transit.
Damage
even
in
a scratch
transit,
can really impact the value of a vehicle or upset a customer. So the delicacy we have to treat those vehicles is unlike anything else we really, other than military shipments maybe, than what we move. And that's why you see so much at these loading facilities, so many cameras and so many ways of keeping the vehicles protected. And then once you're inside that auto rack, there's not a lot of room. I mean, it's tight in there.
Literally inches.
Yes, and so the people that do that work hard, and they have to get in there and latch everything up and make it safe and secure. But again, and you don't want to hump them because you don't want the cars jamming. There's all kinds of things you have to think about. But again, very important to our economy, very important to our business, very important customer base.
So I have to go down this path, but you have quite a collection on a personal side. You have quite a collection of cars. You've got some rare automobies, if you don't mind. Just give us a few details on that, Joe.
I can't collect big trains; they're too big. Although I am getting some train sets that are fun, including the CSX ones.
Okay.
But I was fortunate. Obviously, you get the bug when you work 30 plus years in the auto industry, and once you can get to a level where you can maybe have some discretionary purchases. The first vehicle I bought that was not my daily driver was a 2005 Ford GT. I was part of that program, was running manufacturing when we launched the vehicles and built them in Wixom, Michigan. So it was heavily involved in the program. I have VIN number 5. It's a beautiful car, blue with a white stripe. And that was the first vehicle I bought that was kind of outside of just the daily driver. Since then, I bought a few more.
Okay.
Hopefully with the support of my wife and staying married for 34 years. But the crown jewel of my collection is the 2017 Ford GT, which is the carbon fiber one that we went back and won Le Mans after 50 years in 2016.
Twin turbo V6, yeah.
And the first three we did in the race livery of the Le Mans car that won in 2016. I have been number 3. It's red, white, and blue. It's beautiful. That's probably the rarest car I have. I have been able to purchase a few other non-Ford vehicles since I retired from Ford, mostly European makes. Sports cars are a little fun, but I've been blessed. I mean, I have a couple of Shelby Cobra GTs. I have the first, Shelby Cobra Mustangs. I have the first Raptor of the second generation produced, which is kind of fun. F-150 Raptor, I should say. I have a Bronco Raptor. I was a big part of bringing back the Bronco to the portfolio, so I have several Broncos in '74.
Okay. Yeah.
So listen, cars are fun. I still love them. I'm trying to bring some more to Florida here so I can drive them a little bit more. But I'm a railroader now.
A lot of railroaders are interested in automobiles, and they're also interested in model trains. Me, hey, I'm unabashedly vocal about that. Something about big things that move that just
they're electrical,
delight
mechanical,
people.
and design matters. I mean, there's beauty in the design. They're works of art,
Yeah.
And the tie to the railroad industry, goes back to. Whether it was oil or steel or metal or any kind of metals, and then the auto, we're interconnected, and we always will be.
Yeah. Some of the same industrial designers, Raymond Loewy, who designed locomotives for the Pennsylvania Railroad, designed cars for Studebaker, and so there's
Well, you can even make the connections. Flagler worked for Rockefeller Oil, which turns into gas, but also Flagler built a railroad, and Rockefeller had a railroad. I mean, Henry Ford had a railroad. There's all these connections. At the end of the day, what's really fun for me, having spent General Motors, Ford, CSX. I'm on the board of Goodyear. These are companies that are over 100 years old, in our case almost 200 years old at CSX, is just being a part of the history and the stewardship of these industrial companies that mean so much to this economy and are foundational to this way of life that we get to enjoy in America.
Which brings us to growth. That's something that the industry and the people who observe the industry have talked about for a long, long time. We need to grow. We need to grow the top line. Yeah, you can grow the bottom line by cost efficiencies, technology, various ways to do that, as you well know. But growing the top line, that's competing with our partners in many respects. The truckers, the big truckers, are our partners. But taking that taking traffic from off the highways and putting it either in containers or now box cars. We need more box cars. We need to
bigger box cars.
Bigger box cars. Yes. Yeah, we need to grow that track. Where do you see the growth coming from longer term?
This is I think one of the most important topics for the rail industry today. There's been such a focus on the efficiency of the operations over the last 10, 20 years, which has been great to bring the profitability of the railroads up to a point where we're healthy enough where we can reinvest in the business. We can keep our infrastructure up, which we pay for, as you know. But there's a higher order purpose here, and that is the U.S. economy runs better when railroads run better.
True.
The taxpayers benefit when the railroads run better, because if we can get more business off the roads, the taxpayers pay for the wear and tear on the roads. We pay for our own infrastructure. Congestion gets better if we take things off the road. It's safer to get things off the road onto rail. And oh, by the way, we can profitably grow the business. The biggest area of growth opportunity for the railroads is intermodal. And it's more than just, that's where the volume is. A lot of our customers have moved their logistics, their whole transportation strategy away from what used to be box cars or the like, and now have truck docks. So they're loading truck containers. So intermodal allows that infrastructure to still be used and not transferred back over, because a lot of the rail docks no longer exist in a lot of our customers.
That's true.
And so, the auto industry, we took them all out, most of them out, for engines and transmissions and frames and sheet metal. Same things happen a lot across. So we have to get better at intermodal, and we have to celebrate that intermodal is a big part of our growth. Now, we need to do it in a way that doesn't degrade the margins of our traditional merchandise business. That's where the disconnect comes in sometimes for for our investors is they get confused. Like, so if you're going to grow intermodal, will your merchandise business somehow decline its profitability? It doesn't have to be that way. But intermodal is highly service sensitive.
Yes.
And speed matters, time matters, and relationships and communication matters. So you need the customers need to know when the container gets to the intermodal yard and when it's ready to be picked up, and then the time they're in the terminal to get that container matters a lot to truck drivers. So there's a lot of service-oriented pieces to this, but we get it right. There are reasons why. Oh, by the way, we're much better for the environment too.
Yes.
There are reasons
That's a
why
given, yeah.
people want to do business with rail. It's up to us to show them that we can be reliable and dependable. There's also merchandise opportunity with all the industrial development activity happening in the U.S., especially here in the Midwest and Southeast on our network. There's growth opportunity as we bring things back to America. We can grow the business there too. So we see tremendous opportunity for growth over the next several years if and when we deliver the service that customers expect and we do it repeatedly and reliably. Because if they can't count us, they have to go to a truck, because they can count on a truck.
Yeah.
So it's all about us getting our service levels up and sustaining them and maintaining them. And that goes back to our people again. So that's where it all comes back to. But there's tremendous opportunity to grow, because there's reasons why, and by the way, we're cheaper for customers too. So there's reasons why customers should want to do business with rail, but it starts with, can they trust us to deliver on time?
Yeah, it's when they have a choice, they make the choice for rail. There's certain commodities, as you well know, will always move by rail because they move best by rail.
Yes.
Grain, coal, iron ore, automobiles, what have you. But the commodities that the customer has a choice, you need to give them we as an industry need to give them the reason to make the choice to move it in a train.
Right, and we've given them the choice that it's higher risk right now in the last 10, 20 years to go rail.
Yeah.
Because of time, inconsistency of service and the time it takes to deliver. So we have to keep compressing the time to get better and better and better at speed and turn, like intermodal, but we also have to reliably deliver, on time so they can trust us. Nobody gets fired from moving from rail to truck, but if they move from truck to rail and it doesn't get delivered, then they get in trouble.
Yeah.
So it's on us. The onus is on us to show that we can be reliable, and then I think the opportunities are significant.
And the service provided by CSX has gotten considerably better. CSX was the first Class 1 to be released from certain reporting requirements by the Surface Transportation Board.
That's right. We were the winner of the inaugural Bill Thompson Award from Luke Capital last year for the best run railroad.
Oh, yes.
And the Journal of Commerce, the last 3 surveys of the last year and a half, we were number 1 each time. So that consistency, it's back to our people. It's back where I started. It's an honor and a privilege to serve with our team. Our people understand that we're here to serve a customer and to do it together as a team. And I'm proud of the progress we've made, and we know there's a lot more progress we can make. That's what's exciting about coming into work every day and working with this team of people, this one CSX team, is that we know we can get better. But we have gotten better. I'd say our customers are saying we're industry leading in service, but we're nowhere near where we can and should be, and where the opportunity is to grow.
Well, Joe, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. We look forward to presenting you officially with the Railroader of the Year Award at our annual dinner, which we hold in Chicago, first week in the year at the Union League Club. It's been really wonderful to see the turnaround at CSX and to see the progress that CSX and the entire industry has made, and in many respects, as we've discussed, really led by CSX and your team. So congratulations.
Thank you, Bill, and
once
Railway
again.
Age, and thanks for recognizing the one CSX team.
Yes, our pleasure.
Thank you.